What's up YouTube? Expensive Cardboard here. Today we'll be doing an updated deck profile of pure Fire Kings. So unlike most builds you're seeing on YouTube, you're not going to see Snake Eyes, Dogmatica, or Tri-Brigade because this version of the deck is a budget-oriented deck. So we'll be using cards to help compensate for the lack of those side engines in order to get access to Arponics as quickly as possible. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first up, we are running 3 copies of our legendary Fire King Ponix. This is going to be your forerunner or your starter for the deck. So it has an incredible ability that reads, if your monster that was originally fired is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Fire King spell or trap from your deck to your hand. During the next standby phase, after this card was destroyed and sent to the grave, add this card from your grave to your hand. You can only use each effect of legendary Fire King Ponix once per turn. Next up, we are running 3 copies of Fire King Avatar Arvada. Kind of psyched you there for a little bit, huh? So we're actually running 3 copies of this card. So what this does is that when a monster effect is activated while this monster is on the field, you can negate the activation if you do destroy 1 other fire monster in your hand or face-up field. If this card is destroyed and sent to the grave, you can target 1 fire beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster in your graveyard, except Fire King Avatar Arvada. Special summon it, but negate its effects. Also, destroy it during the end phase. You can only use each effect of Fire King Arvada once per turn. Next up, we are running 2 copies of Fire King Avatar Barong. So this is a 2 of in the deck, because what this card does is that if a face-up Fire King monster you control is destroyed by card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, during the next standby phase after this card was destroyed by card effect and sent to the grave, add 1 Fire King card from your deck to your hand, except Fire King Arvada Barong. Sorry, not Arvada, Avatar Barong. Get those names mixed up. To be fair, a lot of these Fire Kings have similar names, so I kind of get them mixed up every now and then. Next up, we are running 3 copies of Fire King. I gotta say its name. Fire King High Avatar Kirin. There we go. Long name, yeah. I gotta talk to Konami about these long names for their cards. But anyway, this is one of the best cards in the deck because during the main phase, if this card is in your hand, quick effect, you can destroy 1 other fire monster in your hand or face-up field, and if you do, special summon this card. If this card is destroyed and sent to the grave, you can special 1 Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard, except Fire King High Avatar Kirin. Then you can destroy 1 card on the field. You can only use each effect of Fire King High Avatar Kirin once per turn. And next up, we are running 2 copies of Sacred Fire King Garunix. This is one of our boss monsters in the main deck. And what it does is that if your monster that was originally fired is destroyed by battle or card effect, you could special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when the monster that was destroyed, or hand even if not. If this card is normal or special summon, you can destroy 1 fire beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster in your hand, deck, or face-up field, except Sacred Fire King Garunix. And if you do, this card gains attack equal to the half of the destroyed monster's attack, if it had until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Sacred Fire King Garunix once per turn. And finally, we're running 1 copy of Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Once per turn, during the next standby phase after this card was destroyed by card effect and sent to the grave, special summon this card from the grave. If you do, destroy all other monsters on the field. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, you can special 1 Fire King monster from your deck, except Avatar Garunix. Alrighty then, so let's get to our hand traps. So as you can see, we are running 3 copies of Ash Blossom. We are also running 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. And on top of that, we are running 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. I don't really understand why people are running 12 to 15 hand traps in their deck. I honestly think 9, maybe 10 hand traps is enough. But if you really need to put in more than 10 hand traps, you might want to put them in your side deck. So that way it doesn't like add too much to your main deck and you can get into your main engine as quickly as possible. But I think nine hand traps is enough. Okay then. Now that's it for the monsters and the hand traps. Let's get into our spell engine. And because we're getting into our spell engine, we have a lot to cover. So first off, we are running a single copy of 1-for-1. This is a very important card in the deck because it's essentially our 4th copy of Ponix. It allows us to send 1 monster from our hand to the graveyard, special 1 level 1 monster from your hand or deck. Next, you're running 2 copies of Fire King Sanctuary. So this is our continuous spell. It says when this card is activated, you can place 1 Fire King Island from your deck face up in your field zone. So what's really cool about this card is it kind of dodges Ash Blossom, because Ash Blossom negates card effects that add from your deck to your hand. However, this is not adding the card to the hand, it's placing it from your deck in your field zone, which can dodge Ash Blossom. Once per turn, if a card in your field zone will be destroyed by card effect, you can destroy 1 fire monster in your hand or face up field instead. Once per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon 1 fire Xyz monster using the only Fire King monsters you control. So with this additional effect, you can Xyz summon during your opponent's turn, which is an incredible ability, honestly. Next up, we are running 2 copies of Fire King Island. This is our field spell. So this field spell is one of our main pieces that we're going to be using in the deck. It says if this face-up card in the field zone is sent to the grave or banished, destroy all monsters you control. You can only use one of the following effects of Fire King Island once per turn. During your main phase, you could destroy 1 monster in your hand or field. If you do, add 1 Fire King monster from your deck to your hand. Or if you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 Fire Wing Beast monster from your hand. And next up, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. So because we are not running any of those expensive side engines, we need to compensate for that. So what Pot of Extravagance essentially does, so we can banish up to 3 or 6 random cards from our extra deck face down, and we get to draw 2 cards. So essentially a legal Pot of Greed, but we're utilizing our extra deck as a cost, as that way we can get into our combo pieces as quickly as possible. And then we have 2 copies of Darkhole, just standard like board breaker in general. Next, we are running 1 copy of Fire King Skyburn, as well as 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Additional board breakers does not hurt the deck at all. And then we're running 1 copy of Circle the Fire Kings, as well as 1 copy of Rekindling. These are cards that are going to help us give us more board presence by special summoning Fire Kings from our graveyard. And next up, we are running 2 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. Since we do have Beast Warrior monsters, we can use this card. When this card is activated, you can add 1 level 4 or lower Beast Warrior monster from your deck to your hand. All Beast Warrior monsters you control gain 100 attack. You can only activate 1 Fire Formation Tenki per turn. So the second effect isn't really that important. We're just using this as a searcher to get into our Beast Warrior monsters. And finally, to top it all off, we are running a single copy of Called by the Grave. This card is essentially important in today's format because with all these hand traps running around, we really need that hand trap protection. So Called by the Grave definitely comes in handy there. Alright, that's it from the main deck, guys. Let's get into our extra deck. So first off, we are running 3 copies of Garunix Eternity Yang of the Fire Kings. This is one of the most powerful boss monsters in the entire deck. So what it does is that if this card is Xyz Summon, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. You can detach one material from this card and target one spell trap on the field, destroy it. And if you do, this card gains 500 attack. If this card is destroyed while it has material, you could special summon Fire King monsters from your grave up to the number of materials this card had. You can only use each effect of Garruk's Eternity, Yang of the Fire Kings, once per turn. Next up, we are running not one, not two, but 3 copies of Coach King Giant Trainer. So what this does is that you can detach one material from this card, draw one card, and reveal it. Then if it was a monster, inflict 800 damage to your opponent. You cannot conduct your battle phase to turn to activate this effect. However, you can use this effect of Coach King Giant Trainer up to thrice per turn, meaning 3 times. So even though you're losing your battle phase, the upside is you get to use this effect 3 times, which is pretty nice, especially if you're trying to end game quickly. Next up, we are running 3 copies of Hida the Fire Charmer. This is one of the Link monsters in the extra deck. This card is always treated as a familiar possessed card. You can target one fire monster in your opponent's grave, special summon it to your zone this card points to. If this Link summon card is destroyed by battle, or is destroyed by opponent's card effect while it's in its owner's monster zone, you can add one fire monster 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Hida the Fire Charmer once per turn. And then just a little bit of spice, personal spice to this deck. I'm running 3 copies of Doolittle Chimera. This card might as well be an honorable Fire King, because it reads, all fire monsters on the field gain 500 attack. Also, all water monsters on the field lose 400 attack. If this card is destroyed by battle card effect, you can target one fire monster in your grave added to your hand. And of course, since this is a fire deck, we are running 1 copy of Promethean Princess Bestower of Flames. This is one of the most powerful Link monsters in the deck. You cannot special summon monsters except fire monsters. You can only use each of the following effects of Promethean Princess once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon one fire monster from your grave. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, while this card is in your grave, except during damage step, you can target one fire monster you control and one monster your opponent controls, destroy them both, and if you do, special summon this card. Next, we are running a single copy of Sunlight Wolf. So what's nice about Sunlight Wolf is that when a monster is summoned next to one of its Link arrows, you get to add any fire monster from your grave back to your hand. And last but not least, we are running a single copy of Salamangreat Almirage. Since the April 2024 ban list has Linkuriboh banned, this is another option for a Link 1 monster. So Salamangreat Almirage comes in clutch when it comes to your starter. And then finally, we'll get into our side deck. So for our side deck, we are running 2 copies of Dogoran the Mad Flame Kaiju. In addition, we are running 2 copies of Alpha the Master of Beast. We also have 2 copies of Ghost Belle of Haunted Mansion. Since this format has a bunch of fire decks roaming around, this card is really good, especially against fire decks, because it keeps them from comboing off. When this card or effect is activated that includes any of these quick effects, you can discard this card to negate the activation. Add a card from your grave to your hand, deck, and or extra deck. Special summon a monster from the grave, or banish a card from the grave. So essentially, this card negates any interaction from the graveyard, which is pretty nice. Then for extra back row removal, we're running 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. Just extra back row removal in general is pretty nice. Then we're running 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. You know Torrential Tribute, how it works. When a monster is summoned, destroy all other monsters on the field. Next, we're running 2 copies of Dimensional Barrier. Helps work against any of those fusion decks, especially decks like Tearlament. Tearlament is a pain in the butt, so I kind of like to have to deal with that deck. And then finally, we're running 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is really good because you can pretty much negate anything with this card. When a monster will be summoned or a spell trap card is activated, pay half your life points, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future uploads. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.